I am Theresa Werba. I am the author of the newly released Finally Autistic, Finding My Autism Diagnosis. What did I say? As a middle-aged female. And I am currently 62 years old. I was diagnosed at the age of 53. Um, the process of getting diagnosed was frustrating, I would say, for me, because all since my early 20s, I had the quote bipolar diagnosis. And at one point it was refined to be mixed states bipolar, which meant that I was supposedly manic, depressed, and anxious at the same time. So when I was presented with the possibility that actually my problem was autism, or my condition was autism, I went to a particular uh, uh, place to get evaluated, and they said, well, you're not being treated for your bipolar, so we can't evaluate you until you get your bipolar treated, which was kind of like, why didn't they at least consider the fact that maybe it wasn't bipolar at all? So my second time, a few years later, I went to a different research facility. And this is an answer to the second part of the question. It was extremely valuable and rewarding for me because I felt truly, for the first time, really truly understood, um, and vindicated. I felt like she was able to see through all that other stuff and get to the heart of my struggles and my challenges and my life story. And I believe that she definitely gave me an accurate diagnosis. So when it comes to autistic traits that others might notice, um, at first glance, you might not notice it, but if you get to talking to me, I think you do notice it. And I think most people do after a minute or two, because I'm very talkative. And when I'm talking to people, if it's not of the most superficial nature, which is the thing is most challenging to me, when I'm talking a little bit more than that, I'll get into a subject, whatever it happens to be, and it's a topic that interests me, which oftentimes really actually turns people off because they're not interested, and I will monopolize the conversation, and I have difficulty knowing when to let the other person speak. So that's a challenge that I still deal with to this day. I still have to be very, very cognizant of how long I've been talking, and maybe it's time to ask the other person a question, even though it's thoroughly unnatural to me. It's just something that I learned how to do, and I do practice it as a practice. I also, most of the time, appear rude in public. I know that even if I'm speaking what I consider to be polite speech, it never comes off that way. People accuse me of being rude most of the time. I do have an issue with small talk and social conventions of a superficial nature. So when I don't like it. I don't like to employ it. I get frustrated when I have to do it. I have a hard time when I do it. So that's an issue. And most of the time my voice is considered too loud. Part of that is because I was a professional singer in my limited capacity over the years, and so I'm used to projecting, but I think it also has to do with autism. I do get very upset when things are not the way that I think they should be, and that can be expressed sometimes verbally. I think what people don't notice about me is how much concerted effort I actually put into masking. And when I was younger, and before I even knew I had autism, I called it putting on my face. And I employed it when I was performing because I found, ironically, that getting in front of an audience was the most um, advantageous way for me to communicate with people, because I was here, they were there, I could project to them and put on this face and sing songs, and later on in my life perform my poetry, which I've written 4 books of poetry. Um, and that worked because it wasn't reciprocal, and it was something that I could do, just me giving out, basically, which is the way I kind of interact with the world. Um, so to me, it's kind of, I always perceived it as pretending, really. I mean, I know it was not my authentic self, not anything that comes natural to me, but I figured out how to do it very, very early on, and it worked for me. And then uh, that's how I was able to facilitate social interaction. And then on a milder level, environmental things do bother me. And I do sometimes make mention of the fact that I don't like rooms that have a lot of loud noise, or glaring lights are very, uh, very uncomfortable. Uh, or being in a crowd of too many people. I don't mind it if I'm in front of the crowd, but if I'm in the crowd, it's very, very difficult. I don't like it at all. So I think one of the reasons why people might not think I'm autistic, and I think I like I said, I think on the surface that may be what people think, is because I appear to be very high functioning and I'm articulate, which is great, but I'm well educated. I have 2 college degrees. I've achieved certain societal markers in life, such as marriage and children, although my marriage failed, and but my children are highly successful, for which I'm very grateful. But those things might obscure um, the challenges and the limitations and the struggles that I've had my whole life. Um, I think my autism is a strength. One way is because when I put myself to something, I get into it and I learn everything I can about it, and I get very, very, directedly focused on whatever it is. And sometimes it can be multiple topics, but if I'm in a learning mode about a topic or researching, I would have been a great researcher if I had had another lifetime. I don't like tasks being undone, and I'm good at completing projects or assignments or agendas. So that is an advantage to me. But my autism is challenging because I do find it difficult to be like everyone else. I do have to mask a great deal in order, and even just to have conversations. I don't, like I said before, the social conventions of a superficial nature have been resulted in multiple and ongoing incidences of me being called rude. It has also affected my work history throughout my life. While I did achieve certain things, like, I wrote 8 books, and I was an intermittent professional singer and voice teacher. And when I say intermittent, I truly mean that. I never had an ongoing full-time job for any length of time in my life. I wasn't able to hold a full-time job, and it would remain daunting to me to this day to even consider such a thing. So uh, I what I did manage to achieve was by the skin of my teeth, truly. So what has been helpful to me before or after being diagnosed? I think before, I was adopted, and my adopted mother used to say things to me like, Theresa, when you're talking to people, you need to stop and let the other person say something so they have a turn. And it was kind of like revelatory to me at a very young age that that's what I needed to do. And so I employed this practice without knowing why I needed to employ it, why it was an issue for me, or anything like that. But that little tidbit has been very helpful to me, even to this day. And that has gotten me through many conversations, which actually became conversations once I employed it. Um, since being diagnosed, I think I'm more forgiving of myself, and that goes a long way, because I'm more understanding of why my life went the way it did, which for years I did not understand. The bipolar diagnosis really didn't make any sense. I am, but however, if they didn't even look at the idea of an autistic female, it might have made sense because of the rapidity of my speech, which could have been interpreted as manic, and the fact that I did get depressed at certain points, but I haven't been depressed for 14 years. So what is that? So anyway, I am optimistic about my future because I have better tools now with which to manage my life and my relationships. One thing that has been particularly gratifying in the last month is I finally, after 9 years of being diagnosed, have gotten to a behavioral support specialist who is absolutely A1, perfectly wonderful. And she has truly understood me and has been so helpful in helping me to, um, we're going to approach these issues that I have and try to figure out how I can deal with them better and be a better person to be around for my children and for my grandchildren and the people that I interact with. So, if you want to know more about me, my website is theresawerba.com, TheresaWerb, as in boy, A.com. I'm on social media at the Sonnet Queen, S as in Sam, ONNET as in Tom, QUEEN, because I do write sonnets. I have a whole book of sonnets. So, uh, I appreciate taking the time that you have taken to learn a little bit about me, and uh, I appreciate it very much. Again, this is a rough copy, a proof copy, but it looks basically like this. It's called Finally Autistic: Finding My Autism Diagnosis as a Middle-Aged Female. And I would be very gratified to share my story with you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm William O'Flaherty. Thanks for visiting my channel. Please consider liking and/or sharing this video. Also, feel free to comment and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and watch other videos.